Broadcasting from the KMF Collective Studio, it's time for the Keep Moving Forward podcast. Join us every week as we dive into the stories of remarkable current and former athletes that have transitioned into the real world. Now here's your host, Katy Galli.
Hey guys, and welcome to the 233rd episode of the Keep Moving Forward podcast. As always, I'm your host, Katy Galli. Today's special episode comes at you with actually no interview scheduled. It's just me and you having a conversation. And today I actually am joined with Sully too. This is my dog. His name is the Sully Monster. He's named after James P. Sullivan from Monsters, Inc. or Monsters University. If you are only listening to this episode on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and we are now actually available on Amazon Music, awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in. But if you want to actually see the video, don't forget to subscribe on Keep Moving Forward's YouTube channel. You can find it under Katy Galli and Keep Moving Forward. So you can see the whole episode with little Sully's face too, because he's cute. And he's fun to watch. But as we were saying, so something that's been on mine and Sully's mind lately is goal setting. And there's a specific topic within goal setting that we wanted to talk to you about today. But since Sully can't speak because he's just a puppy, I will be speaking on both of our behalfs. Over the last few months, I've been thinking about goal setting and specifically where historically my goals have been set from. So in the last couple of months, we've been doing a really fruitful goal setting exercise at my CrossFit gym. Side note, One Fellowship Fitness is the best CrossFit gym in the world. If you are ever in Roswell, Georgia, come and join us, hang out with us. You can do a workout with us. It's definitely the cleanest gym I've ever been in, best gym there is. So stop on by Roswell if you are ever there. But bringing it back to goal setting. So I've been doing that activity for the past little while, and it's really stirred up some things in me as far as thinking specifically about my own tendencies when I've set goals in the past. So knowing historically, of course, being an athlete, something that we're very familiar with is SMART goals. So specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So having a goal, when you decide to set it, it is aligned with those tenets, that SMART tenet. So within that framework, it's pretty straightforward with how you would go about setting a specific goal. And as an athlete, I think within your own sport, you can draw on experiences of, I wanted to, like with track and field, I had certain distances I wanted to jump, certain times I wanted to hurdle. And with that in mind, you set that goal and then you backtrack with, okay, how am I going to get there? And so you set actionable steps that are time-bound that will allow you to achieve that ultimate overall goal. So in previous episodes, I know we've discussed goal setting at length, but today I wanted to dive just a little bit deeper into behind the reasoning for your goals. So why do you set certain goals? For myself, up until 2018, I set goals out of a fear that I had already peaked. And I know that might sound a little bit ridiculous being 27 years old today, so 25 years old at the time, but allow me to just elaborate a little bit deeper and go into this conversation for today. Setting goals out of a fear that you've already peaked, that your best years are behind you, that you can't accomplish anything greater than what you've already done, will never bring you to where you want to go. Let's go ahead and put that out there. Think about it. If you are constantly operating from a place of worthlessness, from a place of I am not good enough, you are living in a past version of yourself. You have to shift your thinking. You have not peaked. Operating from that place of fear will hold you back more than it will allow you to propel you forward. Because your mind is so narrowly focused on surpassing a distant former version of yourself. Now, I am a huge advocate for chasing a version of yourself that is better than you were yesterday, for chasing and pursuing excellence that you demand for yourself. But it is also worth seeking where that drive is rooted. Why do you want to be better than yesterday? What does better even mean to you? Defining your parameters as you seek to move forward into this better version of yourself will help you decide how to get to where you want to go. But you also must look within and decide why you even want to go there. When I first started my CrossFit journey, I became so swept up in the leaderboard, determined to beat every athlete in the gym, to prove that I was the best. When I became a coach, I wanted to get every single certification I could get my hands on so that I could tack them onto the end of my name to prove that even though I hadn't been in the sport for very long, and even though I was only in my early to mid-20s, that I belonged at the front of the gym. Until my CrossFit Level 2 certification weekend, I hadn't stopped to ask myself why I felt this deep-seated need to constantly prove myself, to constantly prove that I was worth it, to prove that I belonged. Because that was honestly how I had always operated. As an athlete, you prove your worth by showing up, by working harder than everyone else, and earning a spot on the team. That is ingrained within you. And that learned discipline is truly invaluable. It has helped me in every single arena of my life, both inside and outside of athletics. But I took this a step too far. I allowed seeking the approval of others to, at times, dictate the goals I was setting for myself. I thought I needed to show my worth in any possible way I could in order to be considered a success. I never actually asked myself if I thought I was a success. And the truth is, I really didn't. Proving yourself is key, but so is recognizing when what you've done is enough, when you are enough. With the way things were going, I was never going to arrive until I sat down and thought about the place I was operating from. In the constant state of proving, I never felt valuable. Not because others said so. In fact, I've always had an incredible group of people in my family and friends who encourage me into how enough I am. But because of how I warped my own approval in my head. I was never going to be enough because I was never enough for me. Why? Because in my mind, I had peaked in college. The best I was ever going to be was an NCAA Division III track and field athlete. In college, I achieved every goal I set for myself. Some may say that if I achieved all those goals, that means I wasn't aiming high enough. And honestly, that really could be true. But I don't think that was the core issue. The core issue was that I achieved every goal I had for myself in college. But I didn't actually think about what I wanted to achieve after college. With the exception of Olympic dreams dancing in my head, which those were not SMART SMART goals for me based upon my actual, no pun intended, track record. I was not fit enough, not good enough to go to that next level, but that of course did not stop me from those aspirations to become a professional athlete. My goals began and ended on that stretch of runway with a giant box of sand at the end. My inability to see past the end of that sandbox was what held me back. My own inability to look out and see that I was so much more than just an athlete. The idea that the only value I had to offer the world existed within the confines of track and field, as an athlete and then as a coach. For the first few years after college, because of my sheer disobedience towards forward movement, my stubbornness in believing that I had peaked, every single goal I set for myself from then on out had the why tacked onto it that I had to prove that I did not peak in college. At the start of every year from 2016 to 2018, I made a list of upwards of 100 goals to achieve, both fitness and entrepreneurially focused. Each one was smart. They all had actionable steps. It looked like I was just a driven person ready to take on her dreams. But that really wasn't the truth at all. I was shackled by a fear of mediocrity, obsessed with proving that I did not peak in college. And then I had a thought. Who am I proving this to? After my CrossFit Level 2 weekend, my eyes were open to the possibility of what a person could become as a coach and as a leader. And it was because I honestly did pretty poorly in the practical part of that seminar weekend. It was Saturday and Sunday from 8 to 5 with a computer-based test at the end of Sunday determining whether or not you had passed your Level 2 certification. The only thing I cared about during that weekend was passing the test. The rest of the weekend to me was just a means to continue to study to prepare to take a test that would ultimately give me a certificate saying that I earned my Level 2. That proving I was more worthy of being a CrossFit coach. But of course, still not worthy enough because you can achieve up to Level 4 of being a CrossFit coach. And Level 2 is not even halfway there. I believed that certainly with that credit on my name, I would be enough. But that weekend threw me for a loop and made me think of things in a light that I'd never seen before. That weekend, I passed my test and earned that Level 2 credit. But in my mind, I actually failed. And that failure freed me from the shackles of unworthiness. The whole Level 2 weekend, there was just nowhere to hide. CrossFit seminar staff led us through coaching exercises, we had the chance to coach in different group settings, and we had the chance to be coached and critiqued ourselves. It was one of the greatest experiences that I've ever had. Because if my ability to earn my Level 2 relied upon the experience of the weekend and my ability to actually coach, I would have failed. It was eye-opening to see that no amount of tests I take, no amount of certificates I add to the end of my name, no amount of things I do to try and prove my worth are any replacement for actual experience. And that is something that I just cannot rush, something that I cannot prove, something that I cannot earn by simply passing a test. I am in no way knocking seminars and certificates. I intend to earn as many as humanly possible in this life, but they are not what makes you a worthy human being. I did not do well in the practical assessment of the level 2, and to my amazement, that is what freed me from my fear of being mediocre. Freed me from this massive fear that the best version of Katy I'm ever going to be was 2015 Katy upon graduating college. But what I saw as actually failing my level 2 weekend, I came to the realization that setting goals from a place of fear is far less effective than setting goals from a place of passion. I achieved those college goals because I love track and field. I love that sport. All I ever wanted to do was triple jump. Going to practice every day, going to meets every weekend, I chose to be there, and I chose to come early to practice and stay late. I chose to go to meets every weekend. If I could, I would have stayed at the track as much as humanly possible. I still would have gone to class, of course, but I loved being at the track. There was nowhere I wanted to be more than that. If I had the choice, I would have been at a track meet every single weekend. Not to prove that I was the best triple jumper there ever was, but because I seriously loved the sport. I just loved to jump. And that brought the desire to become the best version of myself I could be within that sport. And the same today goes for CrossFit coaching. I used this sport for a while, almost as a crutch, to keep trying to show others I was worth it. To prove to the onlookers, see, I didn't peak in college. But guess what? No one was onlooking. It was a simultaneously arrogant and terrified of mediocrity Katy that was the only onlooker. I was unknowingly holding myself back. Until I realized all the certificates in the world won't make me enough, no one and no thing holds that power over me. I am already enough because my worth does not exist in the things of this earth. But after my level 2 weekend, I began operating from a place of passion again. I love CrossFit and I love coaching. If I could, I would be in the gym every hour of every day. I never once feel like I have to be there. I get to be there. I'm there because I don't want to be anywhere else. Which brings me back full circle. After my level 2 weekend, I had a real come to Jesus meeting with myself and with all of the goals that I had set for myself in 2018, including my pursuit to go after my CrossFit level 3 certification. I ended up taking virtually every other goal off of my list except for that one. I sat on it for a while leading up into 2020, really contemplating if this was in fact the right next step for me. I had to first discern where the desire to achieve this goal was coming from, and from there, decide if it was worth the time to invest. Ultimately, I discovered that the place that it was coming from was from passion, love of coaching, and a desire to be a better coach for those who choose to take my class every day. My desire to be in this sport and help all who choose to be in it with me is my real why. So I'm well underway now to continue my CrossFit coaching goals. I say all of this to you today to maybe spark something. I challenge you to look at your list of goals, the things you long to achieve, the person you aspire to be, and ask yourself from where those desires stem from. Are you operating from a fear of mediocrity or from a place of passion? If you don't know, maybe put yourself in a situation or multiple situations that will expose that within you. Maybe that looks like taking a challenging seminar or a challenging course, listening to some podcast episodes, branching out in what you're watching. Have a real and honest conversation with a close friend or mentor about your goals. It could even be all of those things. There is no right answer to pursue the why behind each and every one of your goals. Just start seeking and asking questions. I promise that you will eventually find what you are looking for. The desire to be better than you were yesterday is not inherently bad by any means, but it is worth it to explore what you define better as and where that desire to be better derives from. You are worthy. You are worth it. You are valuable. You are valued, and you are enough. I still forget those truths multiple times a day, and that's why it's so important to repeat them to yourself and to repeat them to those who matter to you. And since I deeply care about all of you who take the time to listen to my podcast every week, I wanted to remind you of your value in this world, just in case you forgot. With that, Sully and I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you want to talk more about today's topic or just about anything else, you can send me a message on Instagram at KMF Collective or at Katy Galli 45. That's Katy, Katy, obviously the only correct way to spell Katy. Just kidding. And again, if you are ever in Roswell, Georgia, and you want to come work out at One Fellowship Fitness, we would love to see you and hang out with you. It's a great gym. Just the best there is. I promise you won't be disappointed. All right, guys. Always remember, you can beat the odds and go the distance if only you keep moving forward. See you next week. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. To learn more about our guest, check out the show notes at keepmovingforward.us. While you're there, go ahead and subscribe to our newsletter to stay up to date on all things coming out of the KMF Collective Studio. Always remember, you can beat the odds and go the distance if only you keep moving forward.